Hello, this is Caelan Huntress with Stellar Platforms, and today I'm talking with Sean Ogle, the founder of Location Rebel. LocationRebel.com is a website that helps people figure out what they want to do and then build a career around doing that while they travel around the world. Sean, thanks so much for talking with me today.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Caelan.
So tell me how Location Rebel got started. How did you get into this?
So it was kind of by accident in a lot of ways. So back in, July of 2007, I graduated from college. I was working as a financial analyst, and we all know that was probably the worst time, maybe in history, to get into finance. And so I was, really excited. I got to wear a suit and tie to work. I thought this was going to be great. Fast forward 2.5 years, the economy tanks, the market's down 50%. Our clients are unhappy. My boss is unhappy. I was unhappy. And just kind of got to the point where I realized this whole suit and tie thing isn't necessarily everything I expected it to be. And there just had to be a way to, build a career in a business doing the things that just kind of made me happy. So I ended up saving up all my vacation time for a year in February of 2009 to go down to Rio for Carnival with my best friend. And so we went down there for 2 weeks, had the most unbelievable time. We went hang gliding over the city. We went to Iguazu Falls. We hung out on the beach. We went to Buzios, which is like the San Tropez of South America. It was really cool. And it was on that trip, we were actually sitting on Copacabana Beach on our last day, drinking, out of a coconut. And we're like, we should be able to do this whenever we want. And that was kind of the moment that set the stage for everything else. So I ended up, coming back. The day I got back, I got a 20% pay cut from my job.
That'll make the decision easy.
Yeah, so that was a little more incentive. May of that year, I started the blog. So I started Location Rebel, and it was essentially me documenting my quarter life crisis. I knew I wanted to travel. I knew I wanted to run my own business, and I wasn't doing any of those things when I was in finance. So over the course of the next 6 months, I continued to grow the site. October of 2009, I left my job. And then in January of 2010, I ended up moving to Thailand for a year, where I kind of continued to grow the blog. I learned how to do online marketing. I learned how to do SEO. And that was kind of what formed the basis for what Location Rebel has now become.
Wow.
That's a lot in a very short amount of time. So sorry about that.
No, that's what's so interesting about your story, Sean, is that's the story that it seems like a lot of your customers and your members, they want that story too. And that's why they show up. Do you find that a lot of people that join your site they're having that quarter life crisis and trying to figure out what they want to do?
Absolutely. I think when I first got started, I expected everybody that joined and everybody that read my site to be just like me, 25 years old and trying to figure out what to do. And I think the biggest surprise is that we've got people that are everywhere from, 18 right out of high school all the way up to, their early 70s. And you kind of realize the whole quarter life crisis thing, it can happen at any time in your life.
At any quarter.
And at any quarter, exactly. And so yeah, there's definitely a lot of people that, are kind of doing similar things to me and want to follow in my footsteps. But I think the bigger surprise is you get a lot of people that they've been in a job for 20 years and they've kind of, realized, oh, wait, I haven't done any of the stuff I like to do. Or, I don't feel like I'm getting the support and the recognition that I need at my current job. I'm not fulfilled doing this. I can't spend as much time with my family and my kids as I'd like to. And so everybody, kind of has their own different reasons for wanting to pursue an online business and the type of business that I teach. But they're all kind of rooted in the same things. Either they're not unhappy with their job, they want more freedom, with their time and their schedule and the things they work on. And they want to spend more time with the people that they, love and, doing more of the things that they like to do. So
that's awesome. And so knowing that about your demographic, that gives you a really easy guideline for what sort of content you're going to create for your email newsletter or for your blog posts. But I'm curious, how did you discover that these were the problems that your target market was facing? Did you do any user research? Did you do surveys? Do you just read comments? How did you uncover these characteristics?
I think so much of it is rooted in the fact that they were all things that I experienced. Every product I create, every blog post I write, everything is rooted in things that I've personally gone through. And so I think that's one of the big things that sets me apart a little bit, especially in the earlier days. You looked at, people like Chris Guillebeau or Tim Ferriss, and the average person would come across their site or they would, see their New York Times best-selling book, and they might be inspired, but not necessarily able to relate to them. It's like, here are these guys that all of a sudden they seem like they're just kind of successful out of nowhere. Whereas me, you can go back through the history of Location Rebel. You can go back to our archives in May of 2009, And you can see all of those posts of me being clueless. You can see the transition of me leaving my job, of me moving to Thailand, of me moving back from Thailand, you know, and all of those things. And I think that, you know, that's kind of where people, you know, people would tend to find me that had, you know, similar issues as I was having. And so I've certainly done the occasional, you know, survey over time. You know, I encourage people to reply to my email, you know, autoresponder series. So I've gotten thousands of emails over the years from people that have told me, hey, here's what I'm kind of, you know, struggling with. Here are my problems. Here's where I would like to be. Here are the things I'd like to work on. So those are the biggest ways that I've kind of figured out, you know, what people are looking for. But, you know, by and large, so many of them are just different variations of the same thing that I've gone through in my own life.
Mm-hmm. So do you find that people are mostly looking to figure out a way that they can generate an income, or they're looking to find a way that they can travel? Which do you say is more, you get more traction with?
I would say it's more the income side of things. You know, frankly, you know, Location Rebel is branded all about travel and, you know, go backpack around the world and build your thing. You know, realistically, it's probably only 15 or 20% of our members and my readers that's their ultimate goal. I think that a much higher percentage of them would like to travel a little bit more. Maybe it's just being able to take, you know, an extra vacation or two a year. But, you know, most people I've found, they just want more freedom in their day-to-day life. And so, you know, it's kind of like, you know, it's not necessarily looking at income versus travel. You know, the better way that we look at it on our site now is kind of, are you looking to build a business that's going to make money as quickly as possible? Or do you want to build more of a long-term business around something you love? Do you want to freelance and make money quickly? Or do you want to build kind of a niche site and a brand that's going to, you know, allow you to enjoy your hobby more, but not necessarily make as much money right away? So those are kind of two of the big distinctions that I've found and we've started helping people with.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And so, and then you package this on the travel, but it's not necessarily about the travel. I like that.
Exactly. I think that no matter who you are, there's something that is alluring about travel and the exotic locations. And a lot of people like to live vicariously through that. You know, whether people are actually, you know, at the point where they really want to pursue that heavily, I don't think it really matters. I think people, you know, the imagery and the idea of it's like, oh, I could do this if I wanted to. I think for people, it's more important to know that they have that ability than to actually go and do it.
Right.
Kind of having the options. For some people, it's travel. For some people, it might be just being able to, you know, work from a coffee shop on a Tuesday, or be able to go on a hike with their friends on a Thursday morning or whatever it is. So travel's great, but I think it's less about the actual travel and more about the idea of travel.
Yeah. Yeah. And the idea is expressed so well on your website, where you could see this video of you with your desk and on top of the waterfall and out in the desert. And the common thing that I see in that sort of imagery is that you're everywhere in the world, but you're working in all those places. So do you work a lot? What's your work routine like?
My work routine is that there almost isn't a routine in a lot of ways. It's a blessing and a curse with this type of lifestyle. I will work 7 days a week. I will work no matter where I am. Some days I might work, you know, 15 minutes in a day, and other days I might work 15 hours in a day. You know, it's great because, you know, for instance, my wife got a sabbatical from her job last fall. So after 10 years, they said, you can take up to 8 weeks. You know, we'll pay for 6 of it. You can add your vacation days onto it. So she essentially got 2 months paid off, where we took a trip around the world. So we went to New York, we went to Oktoberfest, we went to a panda reserve in China. I mean, we literally went all over the place. And I worked almost every day. I would work 2 or 3 hours in the morning, occasionally in the evenings, and it just gives you a lot of flexibility. So, you know, frankly, my life when I'm in, you know, I travel probably 3 to 4 months out of the year, but my life in Portland, Oregon, which is my home, you know, it's pretty much just like anybody else's, except instead of going to an office, I either work from home or I work from a coffee shop or I work from the golf course. People that know me, I'm a big golfer. You know, so I guess before I said I have no routines, I guess you could say my routines are similar. They just kind of happen in different places or in different times, depending on how I'm feeling that day.
Yeah. So I imagine you've got like your Portland routine set up, but then you've also got travel routines. What's the big difference when you're trying to be productive when you travel? How is that different than being productive when you're in Portland?
Well, I've long said that at least for me personally, I can grow my business when I'm at home. I can maintain my business when I'm on the road. You know, so for me, I try and avoid really fast travel, where you're someplace new every day or two. I like, if I'm going to go somewhere, I like to stay there for a longer period of time so that you can actually build those routines. I can find that coffee shop to work at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I have to be sightseeing and doing stuff every single day, every single minute. So, for me, a big part of it is just kind of establishing what I'm trying to do in each place, and trying to stick with that. So usually that means waking up early, working in the mornings, and then having fun and doing things in the afternoon. If I'm going to be someplace for a long period of time, I'll usually take that first day and I'll figure out what coffee shop or, what co-working space am I going to be at? What's my backup one in case the internet's down there? And you try and kind of establish those routines as best you can, given the fact that, you're in a foreign place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you really need to identify where can I get Wi-Fi and caffeine securely so that I know I can jack right in and get to work.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's your morning routine like? When you're traveling and you're going to be working that day, is there anything you do in the first hour after you wake up?
So when I'm traveling, my routine is not nearly as good as it is when I'm at home. When I'm at home, I'm pretty good at, I wake up around 6, I'll answer emails for usually like 2 hours. I'll have a cup of coffee. I'll then try and go to the gym, try and get that done early, which sometimes I'm better at than others. Come back, I'll make a green smoothie. And that's when I start digging into my, real kind of deeper work or more creative work. Mm-hmm. That's the schedule I've been on for the last like month or two. And I feel really good about that. The days that I stick with that are the best days. When I'm on the road, it's usually I will, maybe get a run in depending on where I'm at. But it's wake up, shower, go out to go find a coffee shop, work for probably 4 hours. And then, every day is different when you're traveling. So then the afternoons could be wildly different, but, I don't get as much exercise done in the mornings when I'm traveling on the road. And I tend to dive into, the work quicker, because I know I've got a limited amount of time. When I'm here in Portland, I can have all day, depending on what I've got going on. So I can spread that out a little bit more. But when I'm traveling, it's usually I've got this much time. This is what I have to get done. So I'm going to try and make it happen as quickly as possible.
Cool. And when you're prioritizing what you're getting done, I mean, how do you do that? Is there a system you use? Is there an app you use? Like, how do you prioritize what am I going to work on today?
So I use Asana and absolutely love it. I probably went through, half a dozen different project management softwares before I finally settled on that and kind of figured out what works for me. Still not perfect, but in terms of trying to prioritize what I'm trying to do in any given day, any given week, following along with longer term projects and making sure that I'm still making time for the important things rather than just the urgent things like answering emails and things like that. I found Asana is kind of the best tool for me at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Well, I want to start talking to you about tools because you run a membership site and you've been doing it for years now. And I love geeking out about membership sites and the different tools that you can use to promote them, to keep your members happy, to create content. So talk to me a little bit about Location Rebel as a whole. What are the main tools that you use to run this enterprise?
So I started the Location Rebel membership site in 2011. At the time, it was built on WordPress. It was using Optimized Press for the landing pages. I was using Optimized Press for all of the membership pages on the back end, and we were using vanilla forums for the forums. It was kind of this Frankenstein collection of stuff that over the years stopped working well together. So in 2016, we ended up moving over to the Rainmaker platform, which is Copybloggers kind of membership platform, where essentially they take all of that stuff and they put it all into one, theoretically cohesive service, so that everything plays well together and everything just works. Well, unfortunately, that wasn't the experience that we had with it. Things didn't necessarily always just work. So literally as of 3 weeks ago, we've moved the site back over to WordPress. We use MemberPress for our membership solution. We use Discourse for our forums. We use Lead Pages for our sales pages.
Nice. So it's still a conglomeration, but not necessarily a Frankenstein that you've just padded together. There's more. What made you choose these
Yeah, so I think that one of the things I realized, it's still a little bit of a Frankenstein, but things also integrate. These services tend to integrate a lot better than they might have 5 years ago
Mm-hmm.
when we were getting started. I think one of the biggest realizations I had, and this is important, I think, for anybody that's starting out with a new membership site, is that it's best to go with something that is best in class at what they do.
Mm.
Um, you know, for instance, Rainmaker, they tried to do everything, and it felt like they did, you know, uh, a, say you're trying to do 10 things, it felt like they did 10% of each of those,
Mm-hmm.
well. It's like, could have been 90% better. Whereas, for instance, you use, say, MemberPress. All they focus on is helping you build a membership site or lead pages. Pretty much the only thing they help you do is generate leads or create sales pages. And so by working with these best-in-class solutions, I end up paying a little bit more, but they tend to be more user-friendly. They tend to be more technically friendly for search and things like that. They tend to integrate well together, and they just frankly look better. When I was on Rainmaker, the landing pages never quite looked, just right. There was lots of bugs with the membership system. The affiliate system was really bare bones. So you could kind of go on and on with things like that. But I think that's the reason that we've decided to, move over to these different services again. Is just because each one we use is the best at what they do,
Mm-hmm.
or at least that's their kind of sole focus. And so it's made working on every element of the business, much more enjoyable and frankly, convert much higher.
Yeah, and you might have, different support teams and different logins for all these different platforms, but you know that each one is dedicated to that specific function. Whereas with an all-in-one, an affiliate program is glitchy. It's difficult to manage. And so a platform that just does affiliate program, they can focus their customer support on that. They can focus their programmers on making that the best experience. But if you're having, that as a piece of a suite, then the amount of dedication you can put towards that particular function is really limited. And so I can totally see what you mean about Rainmaker being just too broad. But it's so interesting that you went from a suite of services to an all-in-one platform and now back to a suite of services. What would you say are the big highlights of each phase that technically from the back end?
So one of the things that Rainmaker did very well was their support was awesome. The people that ran the support, they generally got back to you very quickly, often not with the answers I wanted, but I at least felt like when something went wrong, there was a support team I could go to that worked. Now, when I'm trying to integrate MemberPress and Discourse, for instance, and they integrate, but actually that's a bad example. I'm saying I'm using this suite of services that now integrate better. That's the one that was a little bit more difficult to set up, but it's not like there's just one help desk I can go to. I'm having to find a developer that can do this or a developer that specializes in this platform. And so that was one of the, the real benefits of Rainmaker. But, the real reason that I didn't even look at any other all-in-one systems is because when you use one of those, you're locked into their box. And I thought at the time, this could be a good thing. It's going to keep me from trying to do too much. It's going to keep me focused on the things that are important. And, everything's going to work well together. Well, what ended up happening was there were a lot of things that I needed to do that I assumed were just kind of a given that would be included in the service. And they weren't. So when you're in an all-in-one, service, you're basically at the mercy of whatever, their developers deem as most important. So for instance, I'm trying to build a community. With Location Rebel, we've got a community of over 2,000 members, and their forums were, frankly, they're horrible. There were lacking features that they told me were in, before we even moved over. They said, yep, we're in the process of doing this. We should have those, implemented in the next couple months. It'll be great. Well, between over 2.5 years from when we first started having that conversation to now, you could not private message in the forum. You could not tag a forum member. So if I said, okay, Caelan's got the answer to this question, the only way I could notify you of that is to go outside of the system, email you and say, hey, go check out this thread.
That's not really a forum. That's like a complicated commenting system.
That's exactly what it is. And so, Rainmaker, again, using them as an example, they were really big on their new email service, Rainmail. And so every month they would give updates on, the development things they've done. And almost every month it was, hey, look at all these great things we've done with Rainmail. Well, I was never going to use Rainmail. That was not something that applied to me at all. I was paying for this, service that they sold me on, and yet it seemed like all of their development resources were going to, a service that I was never going to use. So I was like, hey, build in the features that you said you were going to build in that are directly applicable to my business, and fix the bugs that are hurting my business and costing me time and money, rather than developing this new thing I'm never going to use. I think I kind of got sidetracked from the question at hand, but I think that was one of the downsides to an all-in-one solution, is you're at the mercy of whatever they feel like developing.
Right. Right. But at the same time, they take on the development overhead. Now that you're on different platforms, if you want to have any new features or you want to integrate some platforms, the development is on you.
Absolutely. And usually, and this kind of goes back to it with WordPress, there's thousands of plugins that do just about everything.
Yeah.
So usually there's an easy solution if there's something that I need to have happen. The times I've had to go to a developer so far have been relatively limited. But, if I wanted to do something really simple with Rainmaker, I couldn't just, install a plugin. It was basically like, keep emailing them about it and hope they, eventually do something.
Yeah.
So I think, that's a big thing. When you're in an all-in-one system, you lose a lot of flexibility. It's nice because everything, Rainmaker's backend was great. Everything was all in one place. It was easy to go. It was easy to understand. Whereas now I might have to go to a few different places, to kind of get the information that I'm looking for. But it's generally been a small price to pay for just having tools that are more powerful and generally run better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, if you had it to do again for that first stage where you cobbled everything together, would you, if somebody was saying, Sean, I want to build a membership site and I've got 100 people who are ready to buy, should I cobble all the pieces together myself, or should I do an all-in-one solution? What would you recommend? Like, if you had to look at your own first stage again, do you think that one of them would be more advantageous than the other?
I really think it comes down to what your goals are. Are you trying to create more of a, educational type program where you're going to be like awarding a certificate or something, or there's like, they have to like graduate the class for, completion. If you were doing something like that, then I would say, potentially looking at a solution like Teachable or something, which is kind of an all-in-one, but is very slick and works really, really well. There's LMS plugins for WordPress that kind of do the same thing, but I found them to be a little bit buggy and didn't work as well as we'd hoped to. So we decided not to use that for Location Rebel. If you have to have a forum and a community, then that's, another, thing to look at. Generally, at least in my experience, the all-in-one solutions I've looked at haven't had great forum options. So maybe if you want to do that, just having a basic Facebook group is the right way to go. But if you want a dedicated forum, then I think, using something like vanilla forums or Discourse, which I'm a huge fan of, I think everybody should use it, is probably going to be the way to go. So, I think it really depends on what are your goals for community, what are your goals for the course itself, and is it kind of a, you do this, you do this, you do this, or are there a lot more different elements? If you've got a lot of different elements, here's your bonus content, here's one course, here's another course, here's some videos, then I think having the flexibility of kind of doing it on your own, will allow you to kind of create what you want it to be, as opposed to having to fit everything once again into, these kind of rigid boxes.
Right. Now you went through a few forum migrations. Were you able to keep all the old activity and old posts, or did you have to declare forum bankruptcy and tell your membership that you had to start over?
No, that was one thing that has surprisingly worked pretty well. When we moved everything from vanilla over to the Rainmaker forums, which was essentially a stripped down version of BBPress, everything came over and it all looked pretty good. When we moved everything off of Rainmaker and over to Discourse, came over much better than I ever expected it to. So we hired the guys from Discourse Hosting, discoursehosting.com or .org, who are unbelievable. With the first pass, he basically said, how does this look? I was like, I never could have imagined it would have looked this good, taking 8 years of old forum content, And, people's signatures showed up in the right place. The categories still showed up in the right place. So yeah, the forum migration was actually I think it was the part that I was expecting to be the most painful. And it's actually in both cases has been one of the least painful parts.
Wow. Well, that's really encouraging to hear.
Yeah. I mean, I still recommend not switching if you have to, because it's still a little bit tedious, but everything for ours generally went according to plan.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, I know the forum is a really big part of Location Rebel, and I'm
Right.
imagining that the relationships that happen in there have really helped people build their own businesses and level up their own lives. Do you have any examples of how how the Location Rebel forum has helped one of your members to improve their business or improve their life situation?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I look back to my community manager, Liz. So Liz went through the course in early 2012. About a year later, she emailed me and said, just want to let you know, this course and the community and being part of this has got me to the point where my freelancing business is successful enough I can leave my job. And so I brought her on board to help me with just kind of community management and content and all sorts of different things. But early on, one of the things that was most successful with her is she found a group of somewhere between 6 and 8 members that were all, kind of working on similar things, and they ended up forming a mastermind group. So it was all Location Rebel members that all talked in the forums, but then they said, okay, once a week, we're going to go and we're going to meet, we're going to do our own thing and hold each other accountable for the things we want to do. And it's really cool because every single person that was in that group has now left their job and is running their own business. And in some cases, they're, very successful 6-figure businesses. So I look at that as an opportunity where, and we still see this today in Location Rebel, where people will talk in the forums and you kind of find people that are in a similar place with you and they jive. And then for that added accountability, we help them set up their mastermind groups and, find a way to basically take it off the forum so they can help each other in a more direct way.
Nice.
Which has been just really, really cool to see.
That's amazing. Have you identified anything that helps people get more engaged in your membership site? Like if somebody, in the onboarding sequence or at month 2 or 3, is there any time when you know that you can help amplify the value that somebody's getting out of being a member at your site?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've tried to do that with our email, system for members. So it's kind of a year-long, email series that checks in with them periodically that says, first off, there's a pretty robust onboarding. Start here, here's, where you should go. Here's where you can find this. And it kind of walks them through it over the course of a few weeks. But then, every few weeks from then on, it checks in with them and says, hey, just wanted to, get a sense of where you're at. How are things going? Hit reply. Let me know. Let us know what we can help with personally. Do you have any big wins we can help you celebrate? Do you have any roadblocks that you've run into? And so I found reaching out that way is extremely beneficial. Mm-hmm. We also tend to do a lot of monthly challenges within the forums. So it's like, maybe May is a PR outreach. So it's like you're trying to grow your business. You're going to set goals for how many people you're going to reach out to each day, each week, to whether it's find clients or, get people to do stories on some of the stuff you're doing, depending on what type of business you have. But those challenges and seeing other people working through those challenges in the forums is just incredibly effective because you kind of say, oh, this person's doing it. Okay, I'm going to work harder and I'm going to do even better than them. Or I've got to come back and I've got to report back about this at the end of the month. I don't want to be the one that's like, actually, I didn't do anything. So it just kind of adds a little bit of a public accountability and motivation for people to kind of focus on different things.
Nice. Yeah. And when you're working for yourself and it's you and a laptop, having that level of accountability and interaction is really helpful.
Well, and that's the big thing about the community in general is when I first got started, I didn't know anyone that was, building a lifestyle business or was a solopreneur. I mean, as I started the blog, I got to know people, but, in my world, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, this is what everybody does. But when you take a step back, like the type of businesses we're running and we're doing, they're still unique. We're still the weird ones. It's obviously more common and more socially accepted than it was back in 2009 when I started the blog. But it's still, kind of a rare thing. So having a community where all of a sudden you've got thousands of other members that get it, that are just like you, that are working on the same things, that you can turn to for support, accountability, to celebrate your success. I mean, that's huge. And so that's really what the site is all about at its core.
That's great. Now, who's doing what you do really well? Who runs a membership site and manages a community, and you watch them and say, wow, I'm always learning something from that person. Who do you admire?
Man, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of what other membership sites I've been a part of that really stand out to me. Um, I would say one that comes to mind off the top of my head is the guys at Fizzle. Chase and Corbett, I think they've done a really good job with their site of building accessible brand for online creators and people that are building similar businesses as this. Everyone that's been a part of it I've talked to has said really good things. So they're one group that kind of comes to mind from my world. Otherwise, you'll have to come back to me on that one. There's no one that necessarily jumps out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, out of your community, out of people who are building their own lifestyle business and then getting things set up for, being able to leave their day job, maybe travel around a little bit more. Who's really done it well in your community?
Yeah. So one woman comes to mind, Lise Cartwright. So she's been in our community for a few years now, started a freelance business doing just freelance writing, and eventually scaled that up to the point where she had kind of a full freelance business, and she started doing self-publishing as well. So now she's got, I don't know, at least half a dozen Amazon bestsellers and is supporting herself fully through her self-publishing stuff. And so she's started to build a reputation and, kind of build a name for herself in the self-publishing world, doing some consulting for people that are starting to create their own books. So she's one that really jumps out. Another one is Carlo Kutaro. So Carlo is from Ireland, and I remember he joined and he said, Sean, within 6 months, I want to be able to leave my job and I want to go travel the world with my girlfriend. And literally 5 months and 3 weeks after that email, he sent me a message. He said, I just want you to know, I just bought a one-way ticket to Thailand. My girlfriend and I are going to go start traveling. And I think to this point, he's still traveling around the world. So he's got a site, I want to say it's Next Stop Who Knows. And it's a travel blog. And he's done a really good job of kind of combining his travel website along with his freelance business. So, a lot of people, they'll have just kind of their freelance services website where it's like, here's my rates, here's my services, here's what I do. Well, what he's done is he's kind of said, you know what, I'm going to take a different approach and I'm going to have my services on there. But instead of having, set samples and things like that, I'm just going to let my, travel articles and my writing speak for itself. If you like me, if you like my personality, if you like the way that I write, here's all these examples. Here's the type of freelance work that I normally do. And, if you like that, then get in touch. And that's worked out really well for him. So this was a few years ago, and he's still, running his own business successfully today.
Wow, that's amazing.
Another girl is Rose. So Rose actually just joined the community 4 months ago, and, kind of basically said, I'm going to devote everything to this. I'm going to go like heads down, balls to the wall. And within, 6 weeks, she had built up, a couple $1,000s a month in freelance clients and ended up leaving her job. And so now she's pursuing the freelance stuff full time, and it continues to grow every month. So it's really been exciting to see. And, within Location Rebel, we specifically, I would say 80% of the people that start out are freelance writing. Frankly, it's a skill that's in demand, and it's a skill that most people that join, they already have. So it's not like I'm having to teach you all of these advanced marketing techniques or teach you, how to build an elaborate website or a membership site or things like that. It's basically saying, okay, you already know how to write. I'm going to help you kind of hone that and refine that a little bit. I'm going to show you how to find clients. I'm going to show you how to, send proper emails and how to be a little bit persuasive. And then people can kind of run with it. And so that's been the way that most people have been successful early on with what I call a bridge business. So my whole goal with Location Rebel is to get people to the point where they're making $3,000 a month. It might not be the thing you do forever, but it's the thing that's going to be the bridge to get you to the point where you can leave your job or go travel or simply have a side income to be able to do more of the fun things you like to do. And then over the period, Lise is a great example. It's like she started with freelancing, and then she started self-publishing, and now she's doing consulting. And so, the freelancing was the bridge that got her to, the business she really wanted to be running.
That's interesting. I didn't know that about your community, that 80% of them were freelance writers who know how to write.
Yeah. And so we, not everyone is, I would say most people aren't necessarily like professional writers when they join. So we kind of help you hone that skill. You know, and there's lots of different types of freelance writing. You know, there's, you know, low level like SEO writing, SEO content writing, where you don't have to be really skilled to do it, and you're not going to make enough money, but that can be a way to build a little bit of confidence, dip your toes in the water. And then you start doing more content writing, blog posts for different companies, things like that, all the way up into like copywriting for, you know, businesses, sales pages, things that are going to be a little bit more persuasive. They're also going to pay a lot more. So, nice. So what we've actually done, we're literally in the process of it today as we speak, is rolling out kind of our second flagship course called Hobby Hacking. I realize that not everybody wants to become a freelance writer. You know, I call it the boring way to build an online business. And that's what Location Rebel is all about. It's not going to be sexy. It's not necessarily going to be a ton of fun, but this is the best way I know of to start bringing in an income online quickly. Well, other people, maybe they're not at the point where they need to make money right now. The money is not as big of a deal. They want to build a longer term sustainable business, and they want to do it around something that they love and that they're passionate about. So our newest course, Hobby Hacking, provides that. So we teach people how to build small niche sites that eventually will turn into a business, but are also enabling them to enjoy their hobby more. So for instance, with me in golf, you know, I didn't start making any considerable money until a couple years after starting the site, but I got sent free golf equipment. I took free golf trips. I became an influencer in the golf world. All of these fringe benefits that weren't directly dollars in my pocket, but gave me unbelievable experiences, but also saved me tens of thousands of dollars over the years.
And it makes it really easy to enjoy your hobby because you've got some of the best stuff. People are coming up and saying, hey, I know you. And so your hobby gets more enjoyable too.
Exactly. So that's the idea. So it's not necessarily just about building a business around it. It's also about building a brand that's going to enhance your enjoyment of that lifestyle. So now kind of the idea is we recognize some people want to build the niche sites and they want to do affiliate marketing and they want to build a brand around that passion. You know, membership sites can kind of fall into that camp, and other people are just like, hey, I need to make money as quickly as possible. I want to get out of my day job. I just want to make, you know, a little bit of scratch so that I can go travel the world or whatever it is. So Location Rebel's right for those people. So now we basically kind of rounded out our curriculum. So regardless of what type of business you want and what type of lifestyle you want, we're providing options for both of those people.
Nice. Hobby hacking. That's going to be super fun. Is that going to be coming out later this year?
It is. So it's actually like literally today I put up the sales page. So we're going to start
brand new.
Literally brand new. So I've been working on it for the past year. We do sales in January and July for Location Rebel. So for the past 2 sales, I've included kind of beta access for people that join. So we've had a handful of people that have gone through it. But this is the first time that it's actually going to be available for sale on its own. And so we're starting with just some kind of email opt-ins and have people go through the sequence and help them kind of pick their niche and hone down their idea. And, you know, we'll probably end up doing a bigger launch around it later this summer. But now we're just kind of testing the waters and slowly just kind of feeding it out to people to start getting feedback.
How exciting. So you're really going to have 2 flagship products. You're going to have the Location Rebel membership site and then Hobby Hacking. Is that going to be an add-on for Location Rebel members, or is it a separate offering?
It's a separate offer. So we've, you know, probably got 6 different products, but in the migration, some of the sales pages got lost. And so I'm still kind of working on getting some of those back up. But the 2 flagship ones are Location Rebel Academy and Hobby Hacking. It shares the same forum, because essentially what we found is that regardless of which type of business you're trying to build, people generally have the same goals. They need the same type of support. The same skills are involved, you know, learning how to become a copywriter, you know, the basics of setting up a website. And frankly, rather than trying to run 2 separate communities, it just makes more sense to, you know, have everybody in one spot and make it stronger. So,
and I bet it also helps cross-pollinate too, so that when people are, you know, in hobby hacking and they're seeing all these people talking about the benefits of specific Location Rebel features, they might think, I need to get cross-sold and go over and try that course too.
Exactly. And we'll have opportunities to, you know, have people, you know, if you buy one, then you can get the other one at a reduced price and things like that. So we're still working on all the particulars of it, but this is honestly the most exciting project I've worked on in a long time. For so long, you know, I was hesitant to really go down this rabbit hole. You know, the whole like, you know, build a business around your passion like thing, it's been so done to death that I didn't want to be another guy that's trying to, you know, profit off of it. But frankly, since I started my golf site in 2012 and, my photography site as well, I've gotten hundreds of people that have emailed me. It's like, I want to create this exact same thing you did around cooking or around cars or around video games or whatever it is. And I finally got to the point where it was like, I was doing my audience a disservice by, trying to force them down the freelancing rabbit hole. Whereas I do think that is the best starting point for most people, but it's not the best starting point for everyone. So I was finally like, look, there has to be a better way to teach them this. So we ended up just literally trying to make it as step-by-step as possible. So it's a 50-step program and steps take you, 10 minutes, and others will take you, 10 weeks. But the whole idea is to walk you through everything single step. So you know exactly what you should be working on at any given time. You never have to question, what should I do next? And the whole like roadmap is just kind of right there for you.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, so that's the end goal of what you want your your email subscribers and your Twitter followers and all of them to eventually convert into. But I'm curious about the top of the funnel. How do people find you? Like, what's the lead magnet, the offer that you say to complete strangers to get them interested in your work?
So first off, before I can even offer them the lead magnet and get them interested, they have to find me. So, they have to end up on my site. And so most of that is all through SEO, and, just kind of organic links, direct links from other sites. For instance, I rank really well for the term bucket list. So if you type in bucket list, usually I'm like the third or fourth site that shows up. So we get a lot of traffic from that. So, for those people, we've got a funnel where it's like the ultimate bucket list guide. Here's everything you need to know to actually create your own bucket list. Here's how to start checking things off. Here's ideas for how to do it. Here's how to create a reverse bucket list, which is a kind of a new trend. And then when you go through that sequence, that introduces you to our complete beginner's guide. So it's basically, you want to start an online business. You've got no idea where to start. Here's everything that you didn't know you need to know. Here's all the different types of businesses. Here are the, how much you can expect to make from each business. Here's how to decide which business is right for you. So I kind of say, that's a $47 product. That's the what. And then from there, that helps you figure out which type of business you want. And then that funnels you into hobby hacking or location rebel, depending on, what you decide is best for you. And those are the how. Those are the really granular, here's the step-by-step process.
Oh, great. So you go from the what to the how.
Exactly.
That's neat. I like that.
And so then for, a lot of our bigger traffics, we rank well for one post that's how to build a niche site that brings in $500 a month. So that ranks really well for a lot of niche site related terms. So that you get our ultimate niche site starter pack. So it's how to narrow down your niche, a big list of niches that you could possibly, get started with. Our checklist for here are the 10 things you've got to have before you get started. So that will kind of funnel you into a hobby hacking angle. How to make $3,000 a month content writing. That's basically exactly what it is. And that kind of gets you started. And then, that will give you our freelancers guide when you opt into that one. And that'll put you down the location rebel path. So we've really tried to create really, really useful, valuable free content. So my whole goal is whether somebody wants to buy or not, whether they want that additional support of the community and the extra, information and having the whole course tied up in a little bow for you, whether they want that or not, I want them to get value out of all the marketing content. I want them to go through and say, this was super useful. I don't have the money or I don't have the need for anything more detailed than this, but this was helpful because that's going to leave people with, a positive taste of you, of your brand. That'll keep them sticking around on your email list. And then later on down the line, who knows, they might decide that one of those programs is a better fit, or we might come out with something new that's a better fit for them. So, I'm very much a proponent of try and make your marketing as valuable and as useful as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a good long-term strategy because that gets you organic SEO. It gets you brand loyalty, having inherently valuable content, whether or not people are paying for it. That's solid. I like that a lot.
Exactly. So that's been the goal.
Are there any guiding philosophies that you find have really helped you in the building and maintaining of your business?
Yeah, there's a few. One, I don't remember who originally said it. It might've been Zig Ziglar or something like that. The more people you can help get what they want, the more you're going to get what you want in life.
Yeah, that was Ziegler.
And I found that to be absolutely true. The
Yeah.
more people I help build their own successful businesses within Location Rebel or hobby hacking, the more that comes back and reflects on me. Those people become, big fans. They, talk about me in a positive way, and that leads to more members, and everybody ends up winning. The other, and this was a big one for me in the early days, back in 2009, 2010, as I was just getting started. It's that until I can make myself happy, I'm not going to be able to make other people happy.
Yeah.
And kind of along with that, selfishness is sometimes a good thing. So when I left my job and I ended up moving to Thailand, I had a girlfriend at the time, a lot of close friends and everything. It wasn't a conversation with her or with anyone else. It was kind of hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go move to Thailand, and I'm going to do this because I'm not happy right now. And until I can make myself happy, I'm not going to be any good to anybody else. And so I was selfish. So I left, and it was probably the best decision I ever could have made. I came back, and when I came back, I had a successful business. I was happy. I was able to kind of break out of the traditional life that, had kind of worn me down a little bit. And through doing that, I was able to help other people accomplish their own goals.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I'm really happy with where I'm at. I've got a, great life. And because I'm in that positive, frame of mind, I'm able to, hopefully do a lot of good for other people through my programs and the blog and my YouTube channel and things like that. And my girlfriend and I, she's now my wife. It ended up being the best thing we could have done for our relationship because, at the time, I think we were a little codependent, and we kind of forgot that we needed to have separate lives in some regards. So, by going away for 6 months, we were able to kind of, find ourselves again, learn what was important in a relationship, and also learn how to, continue to support each other and be close to each other while also not alienating, our hobbies or our friends or the things that, maybe we, is best if we kind of do on our own.
Yeah, that's the great thing about getting out of your home state and going and living somewhere else is it makes you reassess everything from how you wake up to how you do your work to how you relate to the people that are important in your life. You suddenly
Absolutely.
have to rejigger all those relationships. I went to Costa Rica when I started my web design business, and when I came back, I had a business and a much better perspective on life and how to treat people and how to be in my own life. And I wonder, is that is that the accelerator path? Like, do you find that people in Location Rebel, when they want to get their freelance business up and going, do you see a difference between people who are staying in the same spot and people who leave to go and build it elsewhere?
Yes and no. It's so much of that comes down to the individual because we've seen some people that, for instance, Caelan is one of our members. He lived in Portland. He ended up, building a freelance business, and he took off and moved to Vietnam and then Chiang Mai, and he spent a year there. And for him, that environment where he was around other entrepreneurs every day, he was having adventures, he was able to relax, and frankly, able to just kind of focus on his business more. It was one of the best things he could have done. Whereas we have other members that they try and do that and they realize they get distracted. They can't get into that routine they want, especially if you go someplace like Asia. The fact that you're living in Asia, which is still kind of, some of the countries are a little bit more developing. You can't adjust to that lifestyle. Internet gets bad and you get distracted. So some people don't do as well when they go travel. But I do think that for everybody, it's a positive experience in one way or another. For some people, they realize I love traveling. This opens up my eyes. This makes me a more well-rounded person, and allows them to translate that to their business. Whereas other people, they're like, you know what? Travel wasn't necessarily for me. I'm glad I figured this out. For some people, they'll do that and realize the whole location independent thing isn't for me. Or maybe the location independent thing works, but they don't like being an entrepreneur. They don't like working for themselves. So we've definitely had a lot of members that have gone through the course. They start freelancing. They've built up their skills using the product. And then maybe a year down the road, they end up getting a remote work position. So they can still travel or they can still work from home, but they find a progressive company that's like, yeah, we want to hire you to do our marketing, but you can do it from wherever you want. And I think that's been one of the biggest surprises is just how many people have, raved about Location Rebel for helping them get these jobs that are, different from having to slave away and sit in their cubicle like they were doing before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it gives them a community of people who are doing things differently and stories that they can learn from about how other people have done it.
Yeah, it just gives you a different perspective a little bit and kind of say, oh, this is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your perspective with me and diving deep on the tools you use and the systems you use to build this membership site. But before we go, I'd like to ask one last question.
Mhm.
If there was somebody who was starting out at making their membership site or starting out at creating a career of delivering courses online, what advice would you give them in the early stages to set themselves up for success 3 to 5 years down the road?
I would say there's probably a few things. First off, figure out what problem you're solving and do the bare minimum to solve that problem as best as you can.
The bare minimum.
So often people start, like if we're talking specifically about membership sites or premium products, so often people get sucked into, I've got to have like dozens of blueprints and all of these interviews and all of this stuff. And people generally, they'll get overwhelmed. They'll try and do too much, and they'll try and sell. And even Location Rebel does this to a point where you're trying to sell too much. You're trying to sell them the dream, this changed lifestyle. But really, people buy products because they have an immediate problem that they want to solve. And so by identifying one specific problem that you can help solve and creating a product around that and solving the product or solving that problem as quickly as you can and as easily as you can, that's what's going to help you grow. I mean, that's what's kind of niching down, finding those people. It's like, I've got this burning problem I need a solution to. You've got the direct answer to this solution. And I don't have to sift through hundreds of pages of BS stuff that you created just to like make your site feel bigger or to charge more money for it. It's like, if you help someone solve the problem and help them solve it quickly, they're going to be much more inclined to buy more stuff. They're going to be much more inclined to, stick around if you've got a monthly, fee. So that's what I would, that's one piece of advice I would tell people as they're getting started is start with the bare minimum, solve that one problem and go from there. Another thing would be to don't necessarily start your membership site too soon. I see a lot of people that, I'm going to assume a lot of people when they're starting out, they're not going to have a huge budget for ads and things like that. So you're going to be trying to grow your site organically through, your network, through social media, and then hopefully through like search engines. If you're just getting started and you've got, no email list, you've got no, blog readers, those first people that come across your site, if all they see are, pop-ups and sales pages and all of this stuff trying to like sell you in their face, you're not able to actually build much in the way of a relationship and build trust with them. Mm-hmm. So I would say focus a lot of your early attention on becoming as trustworthy as you can and building as many real relationships. Every time someone signs up for your email list, send them a personal email, get in touch with them. I didn't do it quite to this extent, but I know there's people in the past that every single one of the first 10,000 people that signed up for their email list, they sent them a personal email. And so I do it by asking people, hey, hit reply to the first email I send them, hit reply and tell me what you're struggling with. What problems can I help you solve? And then I almost always will respond to them and engage them in a conversation. So if you can build up that core audience early on that trusts you, they're going to be the people that will buy your stuff when you've got it. It's going to be a lot easier to build a successful, trustworthy brand that makes money than as opposed to if you just come right out of the gate starting to sell a bunch of stuff that people may or may not want. And the benefit you get from waiting is you also get a chance to know your audience better, which will allow you to create products that are going to be more directly beneficial to them.
Right. That's great advice. I like that a lot. Solve a problem with the bare minimum solution instead of creating this whole big thing. Just solve it simple and create relationships and be trustworthy. That's really wonderful advice. Cool. Great. Well, Sean, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. I've learned a lot and I really like following your stuff. You always produce top-notch content. So I love following you online and seeing the projects that you're up to. And I wish you the best of luck with hobby hacking. I hope it goes well.
My pleasure. I'm excited to see where it goes. Like I said, that's brand new. It's the first time I've ever talked about it really publicly. So I'm excited.
Oh, great. This is your launch party. Hooray.
There we go. All right.
All right. Well, I'm going to put a link to the hobby hacking sales page in the description of this video and links to where you can find Sean online, follow him on Twitter, and subscribe to his blog. And you've got this really great call to action right on your homepage right now. It's the 6 steps. Remind me what it is again.
Yeah, so it's basically the 6 steps to starting to build an online business. So that's kind of, that specifically will walk you through how to get going with your freelance business. And eventually, you'll get the offer for Location Rebel and everything. But if you're just trying to figure out, I know that I need to start making some money. I got to figure out what's next. I want to do something online, but I'm not sure where to start. That's an excellent starting point.
Cool. Great. Well, I'm going to go subscribe to that and follow that through because I think I need to figure out this online business thing.
I don't know. You seem like you've been doing a pretty good job with it.
I've been at it for a while, but it's because I've been learning because I've been watching people like you. So thanks for producing such good work and thanks for being out there as a role model. I really like what you do.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. Have fun out there.